Hello and welcome to the How to Exit podcast. Today I'm here with Blake Hutchison. Blake is the CEO of Flippa and which is the largest marketplace to buy and sell online businesses. Flippa empowers individuals and companies to take control, take ownership, and thrive in this new small business economy. Let's just start with your origin story. How did how did you go from a little boy in Australia of all places, which I think it's 10:30, 11 o'clock your time there?
Yeah, that's right.
How did you go from a little boy in Australia growing up there and moving around to ended up on a mergers and acquisitions show?
Yeah, it's that's a super interesting question. I often ask myself that. Um, how did I end up becoming the CEO of Flippa? But ultimately, we all find mysterious ways to find our path, don't we, to where we end up? And for me, it was very much just about exploring different business development or growth roles in different technology companies, to the extent that I found myself often working for founders and helping them out with growth. And so I did that across the US, across multiple businesses, startups, and more established companies. I've done that in Australia with cloud accounting software companies and online travel businesses. And you know how it happens. People start to sort of see you as a guy who can grow their business. And Flipper was just that. So it wasn't necessarily that I targeted M&A, or I targeted small business acquisitions or online business marketplaces. It was more that I was recognized as being someone who could grow a business with a big vision, and as a result found myself in the space. And I must say it's interesting because I've always empathized with small business owners because I was one. I had my own online business, and ultimately I wasn't successful in my endeavor, but I tried to sell that on Flipper. And so when I was tapped on the shoulder to have a look at the Flipper marketplace and to grow it into what it is today, I obviously knew what it was because I was a customer, and sometimes that counts for a lot. A lot of people don't necessarily know what a non-disclosure agreement is for. What are you actually protecting, right? So if you expose your financial data, that's not necessarily confidential information. It's that the financial data is inextricably connected to the business and the business name. Then it starts to become confidential. You want to just give small business owners choice. So at the moment, when you list on Flipper, you can choose to either sell yourself or list with a broker. So that's flexibility and choice. You can protect your listing by way of a non-disclosure agreement or not. And you can also choose, for assets valued in excess of $250,000, so $250,000, you can also choose to only talk with people who have got a verified funds balance. So we'll actually plug into their bank account using Plaid and check that they have the capacity to pay. And so it's just about giving sellers choice around the protective measures that they think they want to take. It's not necessarily the right thing necessarily to do, but you want to give them the choice.
Is that just recently, like in the last couple of years, you got some really big deals, or has that been peppered throughout the whole process?
Yeah, I mean, Flipper's always, I guess, been recognized for smaller deals, but interestingly enough, there's always been bigger deals in there. It's just that, there've been fewer than there have smaller deals available. And that's just because, remember, Flipper's not a broker. We have over 35 third party brokers operating on our platform. But as a marketplace, we have the benefit of scale, and so we are price agnostic. You can sell for something, as you just said, a couple of $1,000 all the way up to something a lot bigger, tens of millions of dollars. And we're able to do that with our platform, whereas a broker couldn't necessarily do it, not because they're not good at it, they're amazing at it. It's just that they don't have the luxury of technology behind them that enables that to happen. Certainly more recently, we've seen lots of bigger deals, and I'm talking about far more deals in excess of $1 million happening on our platform. Is that Flipper, or is that the industry as a whole? It's hard to kind of say. The reality is digital businesses today are more mature, aren't they, right? So the average age of an asset on Flipper now is 4.5 years old. People will continue to read content, therefore blogs will still have relevance, and there'll always be advertisers. While some may not be as cashed up as they may have been historically, they'll get substituted with whoever's having a good time of it. And in any given recession, there tends to be someone who comes from behind and starts to excel, while those at the top start to compress a little bit. I just don't know, Ron. It's hard to know. I mean, clearly there's blood on the streets right now. The last 24 hours was a really sad day, and uh, there's no doubt more to come. But I just don't think small business tends to be resilient, and it tends to be immune from some of these things. I think that's a super important statement. Right now, if people want to go to my LinkedIn, I've posted a video of a gentleman, and you only have to watch the first 5 seconds. He actually says he paid for business school, and he also paid for a small website on Flippa. And the learning he got from running that site, he believes, was more effective and beneficial than his business school. Now, no doubt his tuition fees were pretty steep too. Um, so there's a lot to be said for owning and operating. You learn so much so quickly. Not only do you learn about the digital economy and the business models that are driving the world today, which is really important for everyone. But as you just said, your financial aptitude increases from day one because you've got to understand your financials from day one, including a profit and loss statement. And so we don't, we can absolutely imagine a time where there's $1 billion worth of assets being added every quarter, and accordingly, that matches up with buyers, what buyers are looking for. We get buyers complaining because they're like, we want more choice, right? We want more deals. We have people who are trying to buy every day. They've actually told us that they would pay us to keep lots of deals behind a walled garden, so they
Pocket
get access
listings. Yep.
first, right? And so we built a private marketplace. So there's about 50 deals behind the scenes at any given time, that are just, as they come on board, they're typically really high value, and we farm them out to institutional buyers who have a history of purchasing on Flippa. If somebody has one bad transaction record, they're done. We have a no tolerance policy. And then in addition to that, we have, what we might call internally Spidey sensors, i.e. Spider-Man sensors. And we've got a bunch of different technologies that are all about protecting against, fraud and or bad actors. So it tends to be that one, Flipper's doing some hard yards. And then two, as you said, you've got a pretty sophisticated buyer base. There's three types of buyer. You've got side hustlers. They're looking to supplement their income. They're like you and I, and maybe we just want to do something on the side. You've got entrepreneurs, and they want to own and operate. And you've got company buyers. But interestingly, even when you go down to side hustlers, their average budget, so per deal budget of a side hustler, is $17,000. So whilst that might sound inexpensive to some people, that's still a fairly sophisticated customer when they've got $17,000 in discretionary available for Flipper. So it's a savvy buying base.